Hello. It's weird because my camera did not beep when I hit the record button. So hopefully this records. I have a good concept prepared for you all today, and I just need to remember it while I drive out of my driving place and get onto the highway. I'm looking at my grass because I cut my grass and it looks pretty uneven, if I'm being honest. It's hard because I get to this thicker, hardier part of my lawn and my lawnmower just quits on me every time. And I'm not sure, is there something that I'm just not getting? Something that I'm just not understanding about it? I don't know. But it's like I said, it's just thick and healthy grass, and my lawnmower just quits on me every time. And so then what I usually do is I raise the bed, and then I try to go back over it. But every time I try to go that short, it just says nope. And even sometimes after raising the lawnmower bed, it's like still nope. So I don't know. When I first ventured into the world of home ownership, I said I wasn't going to mow my lawn. I was going to hire it out because I had better things to do with my time than to be fussing with a lawn and fighting a lawnmower. Now here I am, an almost 30-year-old adult, and I have accepted the idea of that's going to be something that I do. I think the problem is the level of wealth that I have acquired, obviously, is not one that supports being able to pay for a lawn service, or at least I can't justify paying for a lawn service. How about that? If I have to pay, say, $200 a month for a lawn service, then in theory, if I buy a $500 lawnmower, it will have paid for itself in 3 months. So basically, even if I bought a brand spanking new lawnmower every season, every summer, every spring, every year, it would be cheaper. Sounded like my tires are squealing on that one. It would be cheaper than if I were to pay somebody to do it for me. And so therein lies my acceptance. What it really comes down to is needing more time. And I've said this a gajillion times, but realistically, I think the working schedule should be 4/10s. It should not be 5/8s. I think that's a hunk of garbage, and I wish that I had the power in my working environment to change that. I'm pretty high up on the totem pole, and I've proposed that plan before, and it was shot down. And I'm just saying though, that would make things significantly better for everyone. But at any rate, it's not what I came here to talk to you all about. We're on the highway now. I want to talk about learning social skills, if you will. There's a great deal of books and seminars and webinars and whatever they call them that talk about social skills and how to develop social skills, how to become a social person, how to succeed in social interactions. And I do think that there are things that people are just naturally gifted at versus things that people perhaps are not so gifted at. And I think it's important to understand these things. In terms of a social interaction, I feel as though I'm probably about a 7 out of 10. That's one of my naturally stronger skills than most any other interactions. And so, with that being considered, it is, I don't know if annoying is necessarily the right word, but it's somewhat annoying when someone studies and studies and studies these techniques for good social interactions and feels as though they are just a champion of interacting with people, because at the end of the day, that feels a lot more like they're just checking a box rather than actually interacting with people. And I think that is a very disingenuous thing. Social interactions are something that it is dependent upon people's trust and interactions with each other in order to succeed. And so if you and I are having a social interaction and I detect that you're just checking off the boxes because I'm familiar enough with the concepts that are taught in these classes, then I'm immediately not going to care about anything that you have to say, and it turns it off. And a lot of people who are worth their salt know when someone is genuinely interested in what they're saying versus asking questions just to check the boxes. And that's what I've had multiple interactions with people who they're usually business professionals who are trying very hard to figure out how to interact with people in a way that becomes a favorable business exchange. And they study these methods until these methods become habits, and then those habits can sometimes give off the illusion of it being natural. And I think the biggest difference is your intent. And I consider myself a strong individual socially, when I talk to someone and interact with them, it's because I'm genuinely interested in getting to know who they are and understanding who they are and what they do. Otherwise, when I talk to people or when other people who are studying the tactics talk to people, they're not trying to understand you. They're not trying to get to know who you are. They are trying to complete a transaction. And in their mind, they have to get you to some level of comfort before you're willing to complete the transaction. And I feel like that is it's effective. I'm not going to say it's not effective. It's just disingenuous. And someone who is worth their salt is going to be like, do you actually care about my family life, or are you just asking this to open me up so that you can come in and sell whatever it is you're coming in and selling? And it's honestly a kind of crappy, it's a crappy place to be, and I wish that it wasn't so. But I get it, because there's a lot of people in this world who do struggle socially, and I feel like they could use these tools to enhance their social interactions, and that's all well and good. But I also feel like we're reaching this point now where there is a great many of people who are claiming to have been socially awkward in school or whatever. And I'm sure there is a great many of people who were socially awkward in school. But when everybody claims it, it then again starts to feel fake. It's like, okay, where were the people at who were socially comfortable in school? Were they secretly the minority this whole time, and we were all just putting on a facade of comfort? And I don't think that that's entirely true either. I think what it is it's more hip and it's more in to say that, oh, I was socially awkward in school and I didn't talk to anybody, versus, yeah, I was a social butterfly. I talked to everybody. I was the most popular guy in school. Like, albeit that might be the real answer, it's the less popular answer because it makes you sound cocky. I was social in school. I knew a lot of people and was relatively, I would say, mid-grade on the popularity scale. I didn't play sports, and I didn't go out of my way to meet anybody or go to any parties or anything like that. But I did get along with just about everyone, and was decently well known in the populace of school. So I was socially successful, if you will, but I was not popular in the toxic trait kind of way. And it's interesting because it's like we're all individuals and our individual school experiences vary wildly from each other, even though school is such a mundane and routine thing. And when you consider all the variances that our lives have, you kind of start to realize, like, okay, so then how is it that everybody that we interact with, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just everybody that I've been interacting with lately, but for the most part, all the people that I'm interacting with are all saying the same thing, and it's that we are just socially awkward, and I couldn't do anything in school, and now I'm X, or now I'm Y. And I feel like a lot of that comes from the general crowd of people that I hang out with. Well, not that I hang out with, but that I'm running into on the internet as well. I'm watching a lot of content from these younger 20-somethings who, like, short of anything else, like, graduating high school is the biggest achievement that they have had. And I'm not trying to take that away from anybody, but you get to a certain age, you get far enough away from high school, and graduating high school feels a lot less like an achievement, and more or less just like a chapter of life. Like, sure, there's people still in this day and age who don't graduate, but it's not common enough of a thing to honestly celebrate graduation anymore. You're not really celebrating graduation so much as you're celebrating your rite to passage into adulthood, and you're celebrating having basically made it through your adolescence, and you're now embracing your adulthood, which is also arguable because a lot of people, especially these days, do not actually embrace their adulthood. They wallow in this kind of purgatory of being a child and also being an adult for the better half of their 20s, and then maybe finally fall into some resemblance of adulthood in their 20s. And it's an interesting perspective. It's not at all, how do I want to put this? It's not at all so black and white. And things never tend to be very black and white, but like the idea of a high school graduation, you were celebrating someone's graduation from high school. It was not a normal thing. People once upon a time would be done with school after the 8th grade, and so that's where it kind of started out. And then, like I said, it evolved into this celebration of your change into adulthood. I think Gen Xers probably had it the best in terms of you graduate and you move right into adulthood. And when I say had it the best, I'm not saying that their move from school to adulthood was a good one or well received, but it was more clean and more celebrated than the millennials or Gen Zs would have. Now, the older millennials probably got an experience that more closely resembles what Gen Xers had, but like younger millennials, myself, Gen Zers, it is becoming incredibly common now for these people to stay with their parents well into their mid-20s. And the economy that we find ourselves in helps to build that situation. But modern parenting styles have largely changed as well. Back in the Gen Xers' time, it was when you're an adult, it's time to put on your big boy pants and go face the world. And now it's more the idea of you're my forever child and I will treat you as such so long as I live, which it's not a bad thing and it's not a false outlook, but it can be damaging. Both methods can. Like, if you throw someone out into this world before they're ready for it, they will fail, they will drown. And we hope that they come out of the water and find their way, but they will lose their way before they find it. That much is for sure. And same with the alternative way. You can still send someone out and they can still drown, but you can also over coddle them to where they are not properly prepared for the world. And like, when is it acceptable for you to still be living with your parents? Like, there's the classic gag of the 40-year-old loser who lives in his parents' basement and plays video games. And then, so at what point in time does that at what point in time in that loser's life did he stop being just a normal young person and start being that basement loser? And what I mean by that is, so like, for example, you have someone, it's not abnormal for people to continue to live with their parents well into their mid-20s. We've established that. So if we say 26 is the typical age for someone to actually move out on their own, and then 27 is when they start getting into the red zone. And then when someone is now in their 30s and they're still living with their folks, what happens then? Have they reached the loser zone yet? Or is it specifically when you hit 40? I feel like we can all agree that 40 is too old to be living with your parents. Is 30 the marker? And a lot of it really is a personal thing. If you're 30 something and you're living with your parents and you don't mind one bit, then the more power to you. Society has the habit of putting these labels on things, and we as members of society tend to agree largely in part with what these labels say. But that does not mean that these labels are fact, or that they should have really any weight on you as an individual at all. I pride myself in being able to separate myself from the assumptions of society. And so then, who is society to tell us that 40 is too old to still be living with our parents? I could say for myself personally, I wouldn't want to do that. But if somebody is perfectly fine with still living with their folks by age 40, then who am I to take that from them? And that's just the interesting dichotomy, the interesting dynamic of it all. My biggest thing to get here is just to stop the fake social interactions. Don't use them as a business transaction. That bugs me. And if you're someone who notices it, maybe you notice it and it bugs you too. And I thank you for stopping by, and we'll proceed on with the next one.